radical left has taken over the Democratic Party.
Hello and welcome to Think Progressively, covering politics and all the other chaos life has to offer. This is episode 128, recorded on Friday, July 12th from Milwaukee. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jason.
And we are on the eve, or weekend eve-ish or something, of the RNC.
Yay. Yay for Milwaukee.
But we're not actually going to talk about that. But what we are talking about today is that the GOP finally released their first party platform in what, like 8 years? Something like that? So we're going to talk about it. But first, the headlines.
I got along with him well, although he did announce the other day that he'd much rather see Biden as president. And I agree with him. I agree.
First up in headlines, Joe Biden has gone on a week-long tour to put concerns about him not running for president to rest.
And all he did was put himself to rest by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, there's been multiple media events, including yesterday we had the big press conference.
Oh, my God.
But he started it off last Friday, the same day we were recording our previous episode, with an interview with George Stephanopoulos, Gesundheit. And he did okay.
It wasn't great.
He certainly was better than the debate, but that just meant that they got him resuscitated and he was breathing.
Well, and then he went on to Morning Joe and then said
called in to his favorite morning news program, just like Donald Trump always does.
Right. And I was just going to get to that as well, where he basically hammered on elites for trying to talk him out of this and say, like, oh yeah, they're just totally out of touch with what's going on with the American people. I know what's going on with the American people. Buddy.
Yeah, you sound exactly like Donald Trump. He even looked like Donald Trump during the George Stephanopoulos interview, in that they looked like they'd oranged him up. Try to make him look, oh, I'm tan and healthy and virile.
Oh, I don't like this. No. And then on July 8th, Biden sent out an open letter to Democrats everywhere, firmly stating that he will not step aside and that he wouldn't be doing this if he didn't think he was the best person for the job. I will say, like, throughout that week, and again, we're going to talk about the NATO press conference in just a bit, but before the NATO press conference, there was so much, like, backhanded. But do you really want Kamala running? Constantly. During the Morning Joe interview, it was like, well, who else is going to run against Donald Trump? I'm the only one here who can do a damn good job. I'm like,
the goodest job.
You got a VP, man.
What he said with Stephanopoulos.
So it's just like, I don't know. It definitely didn't put any questions to bed. I can tell you that for sure.
Right. Famously now, George Clooney penned an op-ed in the New York Times calling for Biden to step down. He is a major fundraiser for the Democratic campaign.
Yep.
And basically said that he's through raising money for a Biden campaign.
Right.
And said, this is what he looks like now when I've seen him recently, which is the thing that, we were all fearing. That, yeah, if that's the guy, if that's what Joe Biden is now, then he definitely needs to go. Because while, yes, hardcore Democrats and leftists who understand what the alternative is going to bring are still going to vote for an incapacitated, whatever, dead Joe Biden. The problem is people who don't pay that much attention to politics and independents are not.
Well, and polls are showing that.
Yeah.
More recent polls have been showing that Joe Biden has been losing people to Donald Trump specifically, not just, I don't know who I'm going to vote for. No, it's that undecided voters have now been moving to lean Trump. You have Biden voters that are now moving to undecided. You have toss-up states by the Cook Political Report now being shown as lean Republican or now Republican. And there are stories about how Biden's age and his capacity to run is also impacting the House and House races across the country.
Right. That's everyone's worst fear, is you not only have a Trump presidency, but you have a Trump presidency with control of the House and the Senate, and we know already the Supreme Court.
Correct.
Be zero roadblocks for anything on the Trump/Heritage Foundation agenda for 2025.
Right.
Their project, you might say.
So then let's talk about the NATO summit. Did you listen to any of it? And it's okay if you didn't.
The first 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes.
So I was already annoyed.
I got bored to death.
Yeah, I was really annoyed because Biden came out an hour late, which I literally went to someone else's house to go see it. And we just sat there like, this is the dumbest thing. Like, and how stupid of Joe Biden and his campaign to do this, because, we were watching it on the CNN and we kind of flipped back and forth between like, MSNBC and Fox News because everyone had it on. Every minute that they were stalling, it just left the pundits to sit there and try to fill the time somehow. And what do you think they filled the time with? Well, did you know so-and-so said that he wasn't good to run for president? Well, did you know so-and-so said he wasn't good to run for president? I don't know. Should he run for president? Let's talk to this expert who thinks he should maybe or not run for president. It just makes him look even worse. So I don't know why it took him an hour to even come out. And then when he came out, yeah, like he did fine. We talked about this last time. He speaks okay when he's on a prompter. Good job.
Okay.
Yeah, I give like a C. Like he doesn't inspire anybody.
Right. It was very scripted. It was very handled.
Yes.
In that he had the list of reporters that he was going to call on ahead of time.
Yes.
And all they could do was just ask their prepared question and sit down.
Correct. And of course, though, on his first question, when he wasn't on a prompter, he was asked about Harris's abilities to be president, if he chose to step aside, and he responded by saying that he trusts VP Donald Trump. And that's when Democrats ever put their face in their hands and started sobbing. But again, it was fine. Like that was like his only one real gaffe. They talked about the Putin-Zelensky gaffe earlier.
Well, okay, gaffes are one thing, but yes, he was asked about that earlier gaffe when he introduced the leader of Ukraine as President Putin.
God, did he scream grandpa energy when he tried to recall what was going on?
He did quickly correct himself.
Yes, he did.
But I want us to listen to that mistake in its entirety, and then the full question and answer from, I believe it was a French outlet, AFP, the reporter from the AFP. Let's listen to him making the mistake.
Okay.
President Putin.
Watch out.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
So that was the entire thing. After that, Zelensky addressed the crowd. And I mean, you can just see the difference there of like Biden versus Zelensky, someone who is fully capable, and how quickly he, pivoted. Well, I'm better than Putin. He made a joke out of it. Haha, we all laugh. That's what a president who is in full control of his mental capacity will do in that situation. But still, I want to listen to the question about this because there's more to the question. He then goes on to say, is this embarrassing America, basically?
Yeah.
Listen to how he answers this question.
Danny Kemp, AFP.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about you mixed up Presidents Zelensky and Putin earlier today. And you now have sort of your key allies, including the British Prime Minister, the President of France, and the German Chancellor having to step in and make excuses for you on that. Officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky. And then I added 5 other names. Look, guys, the idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference, I don't know if it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders, heads of state, in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden, because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is well, anyway, I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time, and find me a world leader who didn't think it was. Next one.
So, Jason, look, anyway.
And that to me, that's not fine. And yeah, I know we're all just focusing on, does he sound like he knows where he is? And he does. And you kind of stop it at that. But when you honestly listening to what he's saying and what he's trying to express, he's still totally screwed that up.
Well, and I would say this. about that. I legitimately think if we didn't have the framing of is Joe Biden fit to be in office or not in our heads, these gaffes would not be an issue. Like
and I haven't even mentioned yet the part where he said, I said Putin and then corrected to Zelensky, and then I said 5 other names.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. What are you talking about?
I know. And
what
again,
5 names do you think you said?
well, and again, that was such an easy question to answer. Yeah, I screwed up. You could have just said that. And no, he went full grandpa mode and had to explain the whole situation. I'm like, you don't have to do that, man. Just keep it short and witty. But what I was going to say, though, was like, because Biden does this, because of these gaffes, it just reinforces the narrative that we shouldn't trust him to win this campaign or win this election.
Probably because he's now proven that we shouldn't trust him.
Well, right. And this is like my worst fear of that night, because when I watched it with my friend, I told him, I said, this sucks because it's not good, but it's not bad enough. And I kind of used the analogy of, remember how COVID wasn't bad enough for a lot of people to take it really seriously? So because
only over 1 million people.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people weren't like just littering the streets with corpses or shit like that. Because it wasn't bad enough, we can't sound the alarms. And I think that's what concerns me, is where I think Biden's going to stay in this little window of, it's not good. We're not going to be able to win with this. But it's not bad enough that Biden, his family, and a bunch of others who are just so desperate to cling on to him, they feel empowered enough to stay with him.
Right. I had that exact point that I was going to bring
You
up.
had the COVID point too?
Not the COVID point, but that it is in the worst possible place, which is not bad enough that he'll see it himself.
Yeah.
But not good enough to convince non-committed voters to vote for him, which is what we need.
Right. And here's my other thing about this too. We can talk about, like, is he fit to do the job? Is he fit to do the job? Can he be president? I don't even care about that part yet. As a Democrat, I just want to know, can he win an election? If he can't win the election, we should go somewhere else. Period. End of story. And he's proving to us that, and I firmly believe this now, no matter what he does, no matter how much we hype up his appearances, how much television appearances he actually makes or radio appearances he makes, there is nothing Joe Biden can do to reassure skeptical voters and Democrats that he is the right person for this. Because what can he do at this point?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it would take a State of the Union style debate or appearance. That's what he needs. Remember how we all felt after the State of the Union was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this guy still can deliver. He can still stand up in a room full of people. And yeah, I mean, I know that the speech was written ahead of time, but there were points where he ad-libbed and he responded to the crowd, especially the Republicans heckling him. And he did a great job. But if those days are behind us, which is what now everyone is saying, then he needs to step aside. If he cannot be that guy, and it's going to be what we've seen now for the last 2 weeks, he's not going to win.
Right. And again, I just want to go back to it, which is we should shift our focus as Democrats away from, well, can he do the job or not? Because I don't care. Like you said, if Joe Biden's on his deathbed, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden on his deathbed over Donald Trump, because we know who is going to be put into office and into serious positions of power depending on who gets elected, right? So I don't care what's going to happen in the office, because that's going to sort itself out. I want Democrats to think about, can Joe Biden actually win the election? And I just don't think so at this point. And what is he doing to stop that? Well, of course, he's going around and picking fights with other Democrats.
Well, as you saw, even with that question, his first instinct is to become defensive and angry.
Right. So as of right now, reports are going out stating that the Biden campaign is suspecting that Barack Obama, former Dem strategist David Axelrod, and hosts from the Pod Save America podcast are orchestrating this entire push to make Biden leave in some weird conspiracy. There were accusations that Obama secretly made or influenced George Clooney to write the op-ed. There were rumors about how one of the Pod Save America hosts actually wrote the George Clooney speech, and that they're using their platform to discredit Biden. And they've been heckling Axelrod for the last 4-6 months now at this point.
Those are centrist Dems. I know you like Pod Save America quite a bit. They're not leftists.
No, they are center left.
Those are like your standard
establishment Dems.
Yeah, mainstream Dems.
Yeah.
And if they've lost faith in Joe Biden,
that's a problem.
It's over.
And I will say, credit where credit's due, John Lovett on Pod Save America has been an excellent voice during this debate, where while even other progressives and Democrats are kind of like, I'm not really sure, he doesn't shy away from it. And even when I disagreed with him, and I'm definitely getting pushed over to that camp, obviously, as you can probably tell. He's very unapologetic about his feelings about this, and he's very angry about this whole thing, which I am too. Joe Biden put us in a horrible situation. I do not care if someone wants to tell me, hey, you should shut up because you're talking about this is making us look bad. No. It is not our fault for talking about this. It is Joe Biden's fault, the Biden campaign's fault, and the White House's fault for hiding this from us, for being dishonest with us and misleading their own team. And if their response to that is to say, well, you're committing this weird secret coup conspiracy against me, okay, go be with Donald Trump. We don't do that over here. Get out. We're done with you.
We're not bluing on.
Right, exactly. God, it makes me so pissed. I hate when Democrats are stupid. It just makes me so angry. And then on the flip side, through a miracle, Jason, a miracle, somehow Project 2025 became like mainstream news.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it became that. I'm going to credit our own podcast because we did such a good job.
We did not do a
so
very
great.
good job of actually reporting on Project 2025, but we did have an episode about it.
We did it so early. We knew exactly what we were talking about. We were the experts. And they listen, and everyone listens to our show, so it's all our credit.
We were doing it before it was cool.
I mean, kind of, actually. Which, look, no one listens to this podcast, but I will say I do have a little bit of, I don't know, pride in knowing that we were trying to flag this way before everyone else was. But because of that, Donald Trump has been in a little bit of a pickle because he's decided he's going to step away from Project 2025 because it's so unpopular and terrifying.
On his real Donald Trump Truth Social account, Donald Trump recently posted, "I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who is behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them." I would now like to present the list of Trump administration officials who are involved in Project 2025.
Please, go ahead.
This comes from Newsweek, and we will start at the very top.
Oh, it's going to be a long list, you guys.
With the director of Project 2025, Paul Dans, who served as chief of staff at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management from February until December of 2020 during the Trump administration, where Dans helped fill the roles for approximately 4,000 presidential appointees for the federal government. We also have, and I'm just going to start going through these a little faster. I thought the actual director of Project 2025 could use a little bit of space.
Oh, sure, I get you.
But we have Stephen Groves, who served as a special assistant to Trump in the Mueller investigation. Spencer, I'm just going to say Cretin, because I think it's funny.
That's exactly what I was thinking how it was pronounced too.
Who was also a special assistant to the president. Jonathan Barry served as counsel to the assistant attorney general in Trump's DOJ. He was also part of Trump's presidential transition team, advising on ethics and legal policy. Adam Kandub, who served in the Department of Justice as the Deputy Associate General Attorney. Dustin Carmack, who was the Chief of Staff to the Director of National Intelligence. Brendan Carr, member of both the Trump and Biden administration. Carr was appointed to the FCC by Trump, which he still is in until 2028. Here's a name that you probably will recognize, Ben Carson, who was Trump's Housing and Urban Development Secretary, because, black. Ken Cuccinelli, who served as the acting Secretary of Homeland Security under Trump. Rick Dearborn served as the Deputy Chief of Staff. Diane Furkat Roth, very German, served as acting assistant secretary for economic policy at the Department of the Treasury. Thomas Gilman, who served 2 roles in the Department of Commerce, both chief financial officer as well as assistant secretary for administration. And honestly, do I need to keep going? There is 20 more names here.
There's so many more, man. There's so many more. There are 31 names on this list.
Right. It is 80% of the people who worked on Project 2025 all came from the Trump administration or have ties to the Trump administration. Peter Navarro is a big name. Christopher Miller is a big name from the Trump administration. But Trump, never heard of him. Don't know who. I don't know that guy.
Well, there's Russ Vought as well.
So it's just full of people that worked directly hand in hand with Donald Trump. There was also an interesting story, and maybe one of the reasons why Project 2025 has so many eyes lately. SiegeSec, a collective of self-proclaimed gay furry hackers,
All right.
found and released over 2 gigabytes of Heritage Foundation data. There's a lot of dispute over whether or not this was a result of a hack or possibly them just stumbling upon this information on a website that was related to the Heritage Foundation. But either way, we know due to chat logs that were released by a member of SiegeSec that the executive director of the Heritage Foundation was very angry about this and referred this issue over to the FBI, all while claiming that, there was no hack, nothing was breached. I don't know why the FBI's got to get involved then.
Yeah.
But we don't have much more on this story. SiegeSec, I guess, has since disbanded because they don't want the attention that this will obviously bring upon them. I just think it's funny. And furries might very well save our democracy. And I heard that they've got litter boxes in their office.
Just in case. Did you see the airport recently in Mitchell International?
Yes, there is a giant welcome to the RNC brought to you by the Heritage Foundation display up at the Milwaukee International Airport to welcome guests of the RNC. The Heritage Foundation also has multiple events going on during the RNC.
All right, so how are we getting in, Jason? Let's figure this out.
I am securely on Team Meteor. I know it will heavily impact our poor city, but I think we're willing to take one for the team.
It'll make Milwaukee truly the hellhole that they keep claiming it is.
Well, it'll also make Milwaukee literally the savior of democracy, and I'm fine with that. They will build a statue.
Of just a big rock. I'm now just imagining a big rock with a bunch of screaming old men.
And the Calatrava.
Yeah.
Because that's always got to be there.
Yeah.
Maybe Giannis.
Oh, he could be dunking the meteor? Yes. Oh, perfect.
M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous. Until the moment you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them. That's the goal. When you're totally turned off, they've won.
Boy ain't right.
For Foxed in the Head this week, I wanted to talk about the Amazon Prime show, The Boys. The Boys, it originally comes from a very mature comic book, since been turned into a TV franchise now at this point. There's a spin-off and an animated show on Amazon. The basic premise, I don't know how much we really need to go into this to paint the picture, but if you haven't seen it, the premise is a world in which superheroes exist, and they were created by the mega corporation Vought International, and they're being used as a brand through marketing and patriotism, capitalism, to make that corporation as powerful or even more powerful than the government, basically infiltrating every aspect of everyone's lives, just how our world is now. Movies everywhere, TV shows.
I was just going to say that. So I love the show. I fell in love with it late, unfortunately, but I absolutely love the show. I think a really easy way to understand it is imagine if Vought, this fictional company, was basically Disney, and then Disney just owned a bunch of real superheroes. That's what it is. Or just imagine the world we live in today with superheroes, and imagine how that can really get messy, because superheroes, while they look really cool in fiction, probably would become really messed up in reality.
That much power.
Right. It's a really cool take on the superhero fiction tales. It's a very fun way of looking at it. It's also one of the raunchiest shows I've ever seen.
It's very dark, and certainly it gets that from the comic book, which is very dark as well. Basically, it's written by an Irish writer, very famous, Garth Ennis. He wrote Preacher as well. He didn't grow up with superheroes and pretty much thinks they're the stupidest thing ever.
Oh.
So much of the Boys comic book is them having these very, very thinly veiled copies of popular superheroes from Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
And then bashing their brains in. That is the majority of it, because Garth Ennis does not care for them. But the show, which is a little bit different, really changes almost everything outside of the
main premise.
The core, just the premise. Almost everything else has been altered or changed. finished, is currently in their 4th season, and many conservatives are upset and have begun review bombing the show with bad reviews due to their perception that the writers have gone woke and have begun inserting their politics into the superhero power fantasy that apparently right-wingers thought they were watching. To color that a little bit, the current storyline involves a plot by Homelander, who is basically Superman.
Yeah, imagine Superman.
Plotting to kill the president and insert the AOC-esque Vice President Victoria Newman, who is also secretly a super-powered product of Vought, into the Oval Office. Part of the plot involves using a hero named Firecracker, who is a right-wing conspiracy theory mongering podcaster in the mold of Alex Jones, to spread misinformation to the public and set them against anyone that might be trying to thwart Homelander's agenda. So that should kind of set the stage if you haven't been paying attention to the show. That's what we're going to be talking about. And I wanted to play some clips from conservative YouTubers to hear their critical analysis of this season.
Let's do it.
So first up, let's go to Scottish EdgeTuber and man with the most annoying accent I think I've ever heard in my life, the Critical Drinker, to tell us how he could see this downfall of the show coming.
I kinda checked out after season 3, partly because I was pretty burned out with superhero stories in general, even shows that subverted the genre, and partly because I could see the way The Boys was heading as a creative property. The complex, nuanced and multifaceted characters were slowly morphing into simplified parodies of themselves. The central storyline was becoming trite and predictable, and the bitingly witty satire was becoming more overt and partisan with every season, parroting the same predictable talking points as every other Hollywood product. Basically, The Boys just wasn't cool or interesting anymore. It wasn't fighting the power, it was the power. It wasn't raging against the machine, it was part of it. What was once rebellious, subversive and irreverent had become just another mouthpiece for the safe, corporatized, hollow and performative activism that it once so brutally mocked.
It was part of it. Why does he always sound like he's out of breath?
Because he's trying to drink while doing it.
So
the very nuanced argument of you were supposed to fight the machine and now you become the machine, man.
The very, very shallow critique, just using cliches and not giving any specific examples.
Well, so that's where I had a hard time because I don't know exactly all the clips you got here, but I did try to look up a bunch of videos myself to see what people were saying about it, because there was that little bit of concern I had when we started throwing ideas around for this section. I'm like, well, I know there's a lot of people who are saying conservatives are upset about it, but are there actually conservatives upset about it? And every time I found a video about it, there were no examples. I didn't have any specifics in any of these. It was just yeah, they're woke now, and I'm not really happy that they didn't they're going more into politics and more partisan than they used to.
I mean, say what you will about The Boys, and I certainly have some critiques of my own, but saying it's a safe corporate product?
Yeah, that's cute.
Could it not be further from the truth?
Right.
There's no way this show could exist, I don't think, even on a network like HBO. I think Warner is way too old-fashioned. There's no way that they would approve this. It kind of has to be on a newer age company like an Amazon or a Netflix. Even Netflix, I don't think.
This would not be on Netflix,
yeah.
No way.
So it's, and if you want to make that critique, it's it's way too gross out, shock factor disgusting.
Yeah.
I agree in a lot of ways, but again, the comic book is worse. And I read the comic book, so that's what it's based on. If you want to get a Boys TV show, that's probably got to come along with it. Let's move on past some of the surface level stuff and hear what else he has to say.
So, it was off to Rotten Tomatoes for me to check out the reviews. Not the critic reviews, of course, because nobody in their right mind gives a shit what those shills have got to say about anything anymore. I'm talking about the audience reviews, which is the only semi-reliable barometer for quality these days, and I mean, the audience scores had been gradually declining from an all-time high of 90% in season 1 to 75% by season 3, but that's kind of in line with most shows, to be fair. But there's no denying that season 4 absolutely fell off a cliff. Good lord, I don't think I've seen a fan base turn so hard on any show since Game of Thrones. Look through the reviews and you'll see page after page of absolutely brutal write-ups, all saying basically the same thing. The general consensus is that the show seems to have sacrificed writing quality and smart characterization in favour of simplistic shock value and cheap political point scoring. In short, the writers have become more interested in getting their own personal ideology across and owning the chuds, rather than actually telling a good story, and well, that sort of strategy never really pays off. Naturally, I was curious to get the other side of the story, so I took a look at a recent interview with showrunner Eric Kripke in The Hollywood Reporter, and he had this to say about accusations that the show had become too partisan.
And I'll read the quote that he gives because I'm not listening to his voice anymore than I have to. But even before we get to that, again, his critique is what? Other people don't like it?
Yes.
That seems to be a very common, like in these segments that we've done with people critiquing video games and popular culture, they all do that. They all reference like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes and like, look at these scores, look at all these reviews. They're all the same people saying the same thing. Oh, the show's woke now. Ugh.
Right. Well, that's my whole thing. I was like, where's the actual, like, what are you upset about specific? Give me specifics. I want specifics.
And I tried to read some of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and it has a 52% audience score currently, and it's still like 93% critic score. But, oh, who cares about the critics? We want to hear what the neighbor down the street has to say.
Well, and again, okay, as we both have seen season 4 so far, and I think we're going to talk about this in the later clips as well. What does woke even mean anymore, man?
Well, that's always a thing. But yeah, so I read some of those reviews, and either they say, oh, the show just attacks conservatives now and it's super woke, or people are upset that one of the characters, Frenchie, has a homosexual relationship. That's it. Those are the two main critiques.
Well, then I saw, the two specifics I actually did see was one was the Frenchie one, which that blew my mind because if I remember correctly, I thought he was bisexual from the first episode.
At least season 2, they mention him having a polyamorous relationship.
Yeah, he had the polyamorous with the two people.
Yeah, that's in season 2.
Okay, so thank you, in season 2. So like that wasn't a surprise to me. And then the other one was, and to be honest, I didn't even think about this, is that there's a new character in season 4 called Sister Sage, who's supposed to be the smartest person in the entire world. And it's a black woman. And apparently, I missed the idea that was supposed to be a gotcha. Whoopsie. I guess I'm not woke enough, or I'm too woke or something. I'm just desensitized to it. But if you're that triggered by just having a black woman be a smart character in a show, what are we doing?
Right.
And even then, this is why I can't stand the woke, because this is where it's just all BS at this point. I don't know what woke means anymore, because even though we've tried hard to figure out what woke has meant all this entire time, and Tucci meant like super progressive and inclusive values and whatever that means, like to other people, being super LGBTQ friendly and stuff like that. The show is really not that. You could say like the show is left leaning, but to say that it's woke, just throws the idea of what the word means to me out the window. Because even the idea of having Sister Sage, a black woman, be the smartest person in the world, she even calls it out in the show saying, oh, cool, yeah, I'm just here. I'm trying to live my life as a smart person here. And they try to tell me that my name is Sister Sage. They added the sister in it because I'm a black person. Like, it's not woke. She's just calling some shit out.
Well, that is woke to them. Like anything where you're promoting any kind of diversity, like by meaning you just have it in your show and you have them do or say or be anything that is superior to any straight white male character, that's woke.
I guess, but they call out the diversity factor in the show.
Right. And we'll talk a lot about that here in a minute as far as what I think that means. But let's get to this interview quote that he's so upset about. All right,
sounds good, because now I'm getting upset.
And again, this is from the showrunner and creator of the show, Eric Kripke. The quote is, anyone who wants to call the show woke or whatever, that's okay. Go watch something else. But I'm certainly not going to pull any punches or apologize for what we're doing. Some people who watch it think Homelander is the hero. What do you say to that? The show's many things. Subtle isn't one of them. So if that's the message you're getting from it, I just throw up my hands.
Yeah.
And I do want to say this interview came out a week before the premiere of season 4, and it's when the conservative backlash began, before any of the episodes aired. And that's much like the hate X-Men 97 received after an interview revealed that the character Morph would be presented as non-binary, which we brought up in an earlier episode. I think it was episode 115, and we spent a lot of time on that. That show went on to be one of the best received Marvel properties ever.
Right.
And was very good. Being a longtime X-Men fan, I was very, very happy with it, and I think they did outstanding, and I can't wait for the second season. So I want to end with the last part of this video, because so far, in an 8-minute video titled The Boys Season 4, How to Destroy Your Audience, we have not heard any actual critique of The Boys Season 4.
Correct. I want specifics.
The more strident and blatant your messaging becomes, the less entertained people are going to be, and the more of your audience you end up pushing away. Instead of uniting them with entertainment, you end up dividing and alienating them with politics. And well, I hope it was all worth it, Eric. I hope it was worth tanking your franchise, tarnishing your legacy, and turning your own customers against you, all for the sake of some cheap political theatre that's going to be forgotten as soon as your show's over. I hope all those pats on the back that you and your fellow writers have given yourselves make you feel better when the show inevitably gets cancelled. And no, I don't think I will be watching season 4 of The Boys after all. Quite frankly, I've got better things to do, and I suspect you do as well.
Nope, we're not going to get any critique of season 4. And by the way, the show...
He didn't even watch the...
And by the way, the show has already been renewed for a season 5.
Which is the final season.
Yeah, which they want to be the final season. And not because it got canceled,
Right.
because it was too woke.
But this is so emblematic in conservative critique today. I'm going to spout on this for a 15-minute video and make this my job.
It was only 8 minutes, to be fair.
Okay, fine, whatever. It's going to be my job to spout about this thing. And I'm going to make an entire 8-minute video about it.
He makes the same video about every single property.
And I didn't even watch it.
Yeah, but don't worry, Joe. We found Lays TV's Lauren Shen, who did actually watch the show.
What made the show watchable despite its wokeness was that in previous seasons, the writers clearly weren't afraid of taking shots at their own side. For example, phony progressive corporate activism is something that the show has previously taken a very cynical look at. In the show, behind the scenes, as viewers, we know that Vought is like literally evil incarnate. There is nothing that they won't say or do in order to make money. But that's very different than the face they present to the public, which is actually on board with basically every progressive message you can think of. Black Lives Matter, they've got that covered with A-Train. There was an entire storyline about that. Rainbow corporate activism, well, that's what bisexual icon Queen Maeve is for, right? Then finally, you have the very bold and brave stance of being like pro-woman and anti-sexual assault with how Vought managed Starlight, and then eventually the Deep's apology tour. With all of these plot points, the show made it very clear that Vought as a company and some of these individual superheroes as celebrities were only pretending to care about these causes because they thought it would be beneficial to them financially, which is a level of cynicism and willingness to attack supposed allies that I don't think a truly woke, committed ideologue would have.
Okay, so I think this is the heart of the conservative critique about the show, that somehow they got the idea that making fun of Vought pandering to groups like Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement, that was somehow critiquing the left.
Sure.
And that the show itself was centrist and was attacking both sides equally. Those are all critiques from the left.
Correct. Right. Well, and that's where it blew my mind when she said that, because I'm like, I don't think you've met a left-leaning person then. Because who would be for this thing?
The evil corporation that is just doing this to make money and nothing else. Just like those leftists always like. What? What in the world are you talking about? The idea of rainbow capitalism was coined by the left.
Yes. Jesus.
So I think that is really why they now perceive that they're taking all of the shots. Whereas, well, before it was equal. No, it was always the center and the right taking the shots.
It was always you guys being the target. That's what it always. And again, if you haven't seen the show, it's not a subtle show. Like you can, and granted, I would even say, I think in this season so far, there are a lot of, there were plenty in the other seasons as well, but there are a lot of references this season to just very real current events and like lots of nudges towards current events that I think I haven't personally seen in the other episodes. And I think that way it's finally connecting with them more. Like, oh, they're referencing this thing that I actually know is associated with the current Republican Party, not some weird abstract like jingoism and nationalism thing. Oh no, like this is like straight up, like they're making fun of Republicans. Like they made fun of the speaker for having to do a vote 18 times in the show. Right. They have abortion talks in there that are just completely insane. You talked about the QAnon stuff, the Second Amendment stuff, the free speech stuff. Like it's all very Republican. But I think the fact that they now start to realize, like, oh no, like this is a very real environment that this show is in now. They identify with it more.
It's hitting too close to home.
Basically, yeah.
We just heard the interview with the showrunner, and he said, you know, some people think Homelander is the hero. And one thing, I didn't get the clip, but it was in the Critical Drinker video that, you know, he says no one thought that Homelander was the hero. We're not that stupid. And I'll give Lauren Chen a little bit of credit. She thinks the same way. Let's hear what she has to say about it.
The wokeness that, yes, was always there. I know as a right-winger, I've always been the butt of the joke in these writers' minds. First off, let's look at Homelander, who, yes, has always been a parody of, I guess, the conservative right and that jingoistic type of patriotism. He, to tell you the truth, has always been like my favorite character and a fan favorite in general, just because of how well the actor Anthony Starr portrays him, and also because he's somewhat of a Cersei Lannister character. Like, people love to hate him. Well, over the past couple of seasons, his character has devolved from someone who is obviously complex, power hungry, but also dealing with a lot of personal trauma and insecurity, struggling to handle his megalomania with the fact that he is supposed to be like this all-American good guy, to what he is in season 4, which is now basically a parody of like superhero fascist Donald Trump, which is kind of awkward if you ask me, because clearly that's meant to be an insult to Trump, but simultaneously like the show portrays him, Homelander, as kind of awesome. Like if I'm Donald Trump, honestly, I'm not even mad at that comparison. Let's be real. But what frustrates me isn't just how the show now has Homelander Trump as the bad guy. It's also that they're now starting to bring in the idea that his followers, his supporters, or home teamers, as the show calls them, are also just evil, racist, fascist, sexist conspiracy theorists.
Oh, wait, never mind. She actually thought Homelander was the good guy. Never mind.
I saw this video before, and I'm still losing my mind hearing that again. I can't, again, it's this is now it's hitting too close to home for me, because this is so much of a parallel where we talk about, like, how could anyone see what Donald Trump is doing and think he's a good guy? Here we go.
Homelander is a psychotic murderer who was raised in a lab
and just kills people, tears them limb from limb, and just lets tons of innocent people die all throughout the show,
and abuses everyone that he associates with, even the other superheroes, because he is the strongest one.
Right.
And he abuses that power drastically all of the time in ways that no one should agree with.
Like, I legitimately, because she's talking about how awesome he looked in season 4 specifically. It wasn't just throughout the show. It was season 4 she said he looked awesome in. I cannot think of a scene where he looked awesome.
And he's got a weird breastfeeding fixation because he wasn't raised with a mom. He is not depicted as like stable at all, or like anything that you should look up to.
Like in the first season, he kind of was depicted as a little bit stable. Now he's just completely unhinged. I am losing my mind. Lauren, what are you doing?
So we went through all of that, some pretty heavier stuff. So I wanted to kind of end this off with some lighter takes from a smaller YouTube channel. What is real?
Dude, what is real anymore?
So let's see what some of the more out there conservative takes are about The Boys Season 4.
I feel like there are large portions of the population who get their entire political belief system from fictional TV shows, and woke morons start to believe these stereotypical caricatures are actually real. They think Homelander and Firecracker are actually real. It's mind-boggling how dystopic entertainment today actually is.
Where are the kids? The ones in the basement.
We don't have a basement.
Bullshit.
Season 4 makes direct reference to QAnon pizza type of stuff, which I don't like talking about all that much, to be honest, because it genuinely scares me. But anyone who might have any concern over some of the Balenciaga type of crap that shows up in pop culture from time to time,
Oprah has been under house arrest ever since she sat down with Harry.
Or say Oprah's personal healer friend John of God, who was charged with some pretty terrible, scary things if you do a quick Google search. Anyone who connects dots on any of that or is concerned over the possibility of such things existing is just presented as a dumb, mindless, low IQ, right-wing inbred being taken advantage of by narcissistic social influencing grifters. But in reality, I think it's largely the exact opposite.
He contradicted himself in the same sentence. Which one is it?
Oh.
Are Homelander and Firecracker, the conspiracy theory podcaster, are they just comical caricatures? Or do you agree with them?
Right.
Because it seems like they're not so comical because that's you.
Right. And I also want to put this a bit to bed. I forgot to talk about this earlier. One of my favorite parts about the show is, again, I think they're very heavy-handed in season 4 about this, because with all the references to our current political stuff in America and whatnot. But my favorite part about the show is literally saying, we are going to ask the question, what would it be like if superheroes were in our real world today? I think that's a very fun and interesting question to ask for a fictional TV show. Because for us, where, yeah, Lauren talked about it in the last clip as well, we're saying, well, they're just depicting a bunch of like Homelander's followers as just crazy people who are wanting violence and super racist and homophobic people. Like, yeah, who do you think they're paralleling in the real world? Maybe the super racist, homophobic, violent people who stormed the Capitol.
Yeah, if you felt like those people did not represent you at all, why would you be so upset about their depiction as being racist, homophobic, and literal Nazis?
Right.
In some cases.
One of my favorite themes throughout the entire show, Jason, is this idea that no matter what the good guys try to do, it doesn't matter because people don't care. Just like how it is in our real world today, where it's like whatever information we have out there, there is conflicting information about it. So there's no actual objective truth or reality. You see it as the viewer, but in their universe, they have their Fox News and they have their Breitbarts and all that fun stuff. And they have their, Firecracker. I almost said Kickstarter. That's not right.
Yeah, they do have literally Vought News is the stand-in for Fox News.
So every single thing becomes a politicized controversy, just like it is in our real world. Homelander is on trial in season 4 for killing a guy in broad daylight. And it's a politicized event. So the whole point of the show is to be a parallel to our society. And the fact that conservatives don't see that drives me crazy.
Or they're upset about it.
Yes!
So I just wanted to close out with one final clip from our friend, What Is Real?
What is real, Jason?
Just in case anybody had woke mind virus onto their Fox in the Head bingo card.
Oh no.
I just want to give them this.
The show presents itself through this fiction while simultaneously is seeking to politically manipulate and polarize the audience for real. It sells itself as dark humor and political satire, but I do think it's trying to install a woke mind virus in those that it can. Inoculate yourself against the woke mind virus and don't be an uninformed It's clear that the social engineering is going harder than ever and stuff like this and the Acolyte and what's going on in the video game industry with women's chins and all. They just keep losing millions upon millions of dollars. So obviously it's not merely about money, it's about the message.
I'm not the crazy one. You're the crazy one.
I honestly wanted to include that just so someone could tell me what he's talking about with women's chins in video games. What? It was.
Oh no, Jason. Sorry, we have the mind virus right now. Yeah, because we're the ones who aren't obsessing over women's chins
in video games. Digital chins?
Jason, we know video game controversies. Which one is he talking about?
I don't know.
I need to Google.
He had a picture of a bunch of chins from both video games and I assume real life. There was some that looked real. There was like Aloy from the Horizon series. There was the default female rider from Mass Effect Andromeda. I didn't recognize a lot of the other ones, but I couldn't tell what he was talking about with their chins just based on that image because he didn't explain any further.
Oh my god, I think I know what it is now. I mean, I never heard about this before. It's this idea that Western video game companies are making women less feminine looking to be pro-trans.
They're giving them thick-ass chins?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
They're turning the kids trans with chins, and we didn't notice. Well, it's a good thing we just got inoculated from that woke mind virus. So now we'll start seeing the big chins.
Man, if you are analyzing the chins of fictional women in video games, you shouldn't have a YouTube channel. That should be...
You shouldn't probably have shoelaces.
Oh my god. These people are the worst, man. Conservative nerds are the absolute worst people.
Yes, I agree.
Nerds are awesome.
And conservative gamers in particular.
Yeah. Oh, God.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? It's hard to get any word in with this clown.
So we move from that hard-hitting investigative journalism to the...
more hard-hitting investigative journalism, as in, we read a document.
for like 15 minutes. The 2024 GOP platform. Going against his 2020 strategy.
Of nothing.
Of not having a platform, Donald Trump has decided that this year he will indeed have a platform that is ratified at the 2024 GOP convention.
And I will say, just right off the bat, this platform screams like a Donald Trump platform. Like, it reads like one, it's written like one. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump wrote this himself. It's so poorly written.
That's what RNC co-chair Laura Trump had to say as well, that it was a Donald Trump platform.
Well, there you go. So it starts by screaming at us by saying, 2024 GOP platform, make America great again.
See, now this is a cultural or a age difference between the two of us. I do not automatically perceive capital letters as somehow yelling at me and get angry at that or scared.
Because you're a boomer or something. I don't know. I have no defense to that.
That's something that I did encounter like early on in the internet age, and I never understood it. Of like why people are always so upset about capital letters. It's fine. Sometimes people get caps lock stuck on.
So it starts with the preamble, subtitle, America First, subtitle, A Return to Common Sense. And it reads like a crazy person's manifesto.
And, maybe we need to remind everyone that the America First Committee, the America First PAC, is run by Nick Fuentes.
Woo! The
neo-Nazi, anti-Semite, Christian nationalist, Nick Fuentes. So yay, America First.
Also, I'm going to talk about capitalization again, so screw you. The capitalization is all over the place.
That's something different. Look, either caps lock on or off.
Again, imagine one of Trump's tweets or like True Social posts where the most random words are capitalized, and think of that as like he wrote a paper just like that. I lost my mind reading that thing. Like, did anybody proofread this, or was this done intentionally to like specifically trigger me? Because it definitely felt like it. So let's quickly talk about this before we get into the platform. After a rambling history about how America defeated the Nazis to become the greatest country in the world.
They un-Nazified the world.
They did.
It sounds like Idiocracy.
I think the quote they had from it was, they vanquished Nazism and fascism. The GOP says we need to return to common sense. I have a couple of quotes here for you. First one, common sense tells us clearly, in President Trump's words, that if we don't have a border, we don't have a country. Restoring sensible border security and immigration policy requires many steps, all of which would have been, and indeed were taken for granted by prior generations. That's capitalized. I don't know why. As obviously necessary and good. We must secure our southern border by completing the border wall that President Trump started.
I thought our borders were wide open. Right?
Oh, they are. That's later in the document. Okay. We have open borders, but not the ones that he did, though. Those are
and not the parts with the wall, right?
Yeah. But we do have open borders.
Yeah.
So,
but they're completely open. Everybody's welcome.
So good start. They go on to say, common sense tells us clearly that we must unleash American energy.
Unleash American energy.
If we want to destroy inflation and rapidly bring down prices, build the greatest economy in history. That's capitalized. I don't know why. Revive our defense industrial base.
Yeah, because we don't spend enough on defense currently.
Mm-hmm. Fuel emerging industries and establish the United States as the manufacturing superpower of the world. We will drill, baby, drill, and we will become energy independent and even dominant again.
No, we won't, because it's not like the energy industry is nationalized. It's all private corporations. They're going to sell all of that oil and coal and natural gas around the world, and they will gain the profits.
And they will keep the money.
Yes. So how is that making us energy independent or like a dominant world superpower?
Because we get to live in the same country as them. And we get to see their mansions on tours.
And they'll do it all with federal land.
The United States has more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation, and it's not even close.
That's not true.
I don't think that's true either.
It's not.
The Republican Party will harness that potential to power our future. So cool. We're going to now just destroy our entire country for oil.
Yeah, destroy the environment for the profit of already billionaire corporations.
And the last quote I have for the preamble is, common sense tells us clearly that the Republican Party must stand for equal treatment for all. Likewise, the Republican Party must ensure the equal application of law to all, regardless of political affiliation or personal beliefs.
Odd that they go with political affiliation and personal beliefs rather than, I don't know, race.
Sexual orientation.
Yeah. Strange.
Recent Democrat-led political persecutions threaten to destroy 250 years of American principle and practice and must be stopped.
Yeah, because it was fair. The justice system was completely fair and even down the line until Biden became president.
Yeah. Hey, did you know Barack Obama made racism relevant again?
By being black?
Yes. Did you not hear that back when he was president? Oh,
I mean,
did you just blank that part of your memory out?
I wasn't doing a podcast back then. I didn't pay that close attention to the verbiage that was being used. Like, I got that they were racist. I didn't know the motto.
Oh, yeah. Nothing good happened during the Obama or Biden presidency. And then all they did was just undermine all of our traditions, and just Obama brought racism back and Biden brought back socialism.
Yeah, it's socialist Joe Biden.
Yeah, so cool. But let's move on to the platform. The platform consists of 20 promises written in all caps, like your insane boomer uncle on Facebook, or apparently Jason, who just, I guess, doesn't care about all caps.
I don't care about capitalization. Sorry.
But they... Okay,
I don't read this as yelling.
I read this as yelling.
I don't know.
I read this all as yelling. But, okay, as a heads up, there is also like a 10-point platform that they divide into chapters later on. So it's like very confusing because it's like different points that's also going against the platform they just have right now too. So we're just going to use these 20 main points as their platform because these are the promises they want to do. Are you ready, Jason?
Yes.
All right. The first one, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion.
The migrant invasion.
Yes. Number 2, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history.
Yes. They've been saying that deport every undocumented worker, illegal alien, unauthorized, non-citizen, however you want to say.
Number 3. No, 4. 3.
3.
I'm already this up. Number 3, end inflation.
Yeah, you can just, it's a word.
And make America affordable again.
I don't think you can end inflation. It's like
inflation.
A concept.
The confidence this platform has that they can just rip inflation completely to shreds is laughable, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Number 4, make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. And you have to say that yells because it has an exclamation point at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. Sure, buy American.
It's that easy.
Yeah, that's been said for the last 4 decades. Fine.
And the only way to do that, of course, would be to make American jobs so cheap that goods manufactured here would be able to compete with the cheap labor in China and India.
Yep. And you also have to rein in all of those, super capitalistic CEOs that you just love so much. Is that in 6?
Whatever. Next.
Sure. Next. I'm going to stop counting. Large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips.
Sounds great. Let's see it actually happen.
Yep, I agree.
Because before, they just gave the tax cuts to the corporations and the super wealthy.
We'll We'll get there, Jason. Don't you worry. I have notes.
And by the way, I do not support no taxes for tips. I would prefer we just pay everyone enough so that we don't have a tipping
I just
society.
that's all. I want to get rid of tips.
But you should also still pay taxes on tips. It's still income.
Right. Next, defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms.
You know, we don't actually defend the Constitution or the Bill of Rights.
No.
And then, like they said, Bill of Rights, and they added freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms, which are in the Bill of Rights. It's a little redundant. I think, I think I found some government waste here we can cut.
I understand it, Jason, because if they just left it at the Bill of Rights, their voters and supporters wouldn't know what's actually in them. So they had to really spell it out.
I don't know. I'm seeing some waste in government right here. Some redundancies that can be eliminated. Not being a very corporate president right now.
Next up, prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country, all made in America. Do you want an Iron Dome?
Well, one, I'm glad that Trump has now realized that we haven't already had World War III. He seemed to be confused on that before. Restore peace in Europe to Donald Trump means let Putin have Ukraine. Middle East, obviously, we've talked about, that just means
let Israel genocide whoever they want.
And take over both Gaza and the West Bank. And then an Iron Dome defense. Does he think that Canada is going to attack us? Because the Iron Dome is meant to deflect short-range ballistic missiles and drones. Can we kind of just explain to him that we already basically have an Iron Dome?
Are you telling me there's more government waste being proposed?
Right, yes. This would also be a huge government waste, but I guess it's military spending, so no one cares. It doesn't count. It's not going to minorities. It's going to corporations.
Help me with this one. End the weaponization of government against the American people.
So does that mean like all crime is legal?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, it just means let Donald Trump do whatever he wants, which I think
also,
they already
not the
got.
American people.
Yeah, because who is the government being weaponized against? Currently, you could certainly make the argument that it's minorities and particularly black people, but that's not what they mean.
So what they actually mean...
They said Americans, Joe.
Yeah, so what they actually mean is that they're actually very against that SCOTUS ruling on immunity.
Right.
Super woke Republican Party. Next up, stop the migrant crime epidemic. Demolish the foreign drug cartels. Crush gang violence, just in general. And lock up violent offenders.
Which we don't currently do, of course. Demolish foreign drug cartels. Are we?
That's going to war with Mexico.
Right. Are we using the CIA for this? Are we using the military?
No, they definitely want to invade Mexico to fight the drug cartels. That has already been a platform idea they've had. DeSantis talked about it.
I thought we were going to prevent World War III.
Nah. Shh. Also, I think it's just worthwhile talking about the supposed migrant crime epidemic.
Right. That's just good old-fashioned GOP racism.
Yep. And intentionally creating a moral panic to make people more afraid of brown people. Rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again.
You know, I really think this is an area where they could have come up with a more snappy name for this. Maybe something alliterative. I propose maybe Build Back Better.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, they should have done that. They should have put that in there. We'll make a note. They're going to be here in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
we should
reach
tell
out.
someone.
Yeah, we'll reach out. Next up, strengthen and modernize our military, making it, without question, the strongest and most powerful in the world.
Because there's a question currently.
Just check. We already did it.
Yeah, we already spend more than twice as much.
Yeah. So we already have the most modernized military in the entire world.
Definitely
with the best equipment, the best weapons, and literally the strongest in the entire world.
Right.
Check.
Without question.
You're cheating the GOP. You can't put promises that are already done.
This is yet again more government redundancy.
Keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency.
I don't think that'll ever change. So again,
check out. We're good. It's fine. I didn't know there was a fight there. Next. Fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age.
Agreed.
100% woke agreed. You got us. We are voting for Trump literally in August.
Largest change to the GOP platform in 70, 80 years.
And we'll talk about it more. I have a couple more details about that later on. Cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costly and burdensome regulations.
AKA that environment.
Yes. You can't stop me from having my gas lawnmower. Cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children.
Who defines inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content?
They do.
And political content? We can't teach U.S. government anymore?
No, because that's critical.
And again, with the goddamn critical
And I'm
race
going to
theory.
just lump in this one as well. Keep men out of women's sports.
Yeah, no transgenders allowed.
Anywhere. Next, deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again.
Support all of those Americans.
Uh-huh.
How does that work?
Real freedom of speech, aren't they?
Yeah, I thought they were going to defend the Bill of Rights and freedom of speech.
Both times, damn it.
Apparently not if it's anti-Israel, anti-Zionist.
Don't worry, we only got 2 more left. Secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship.
Done?
Sure.
I mean, I'm not a fan of same-day voting. Paper ballots, I don't know. That's always what we've had in Wisconsin, so I don't really know what it's like to vote by machine ballot, but...
Do they mean same-day voting as in like...
Yeah, like same-day voting. Like, no early voting, no...
Oh, okay, that's not what I was thinking of. Well, but screw you!
Yeah, that's terrible.
I was thinking like same... Because in Wisconsin, not every state does this, but in Wisconsin, you can vote the same day as you register.
Right, yeah, that's not what they're talking
That's
about.
what I was thinking.
They're against that.
That's what I went to with same day voting. I'm like,
no, they mean it just being
there is no early voting.
Right. And, oddly, no talk about a federal voting holiday.
No, why would they? No talking about preserving our current active military's right to vote either.
Right. That's not same day voting.
Nope, not at all. And finally, unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success.
Wow, what a brave and bold statement.
We're gonna do the greatest things, the best things.
It's gonna be good.
You won't even believe them.
Everybody'll say. I think what happened there was they had 19, and they're like, we can't.
One more.
It has to be an even 20, but they just could not think of anything.
They could have easily just got rid of the Bill of Rights and just made freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and Second Amendment separate points, and boom.
And they could have probably gotten out of some of those that are already done.
Yep. Again, we'll meet you at the Pfizer Forum, guys. Laura, we'll meet you there.
We have some notes.
Yeah, we'll give you some of our notes. We got you. If you're going to destroy our country, we want to at least make sure you do it correctly. So let's talk about
some of the details.
What exactly their plans are to fulfill these promises.
We're not going to talk about all of them.
No, like
don't turn it off yet.
Yeah, so we already have like a bunch for like 4 or 5 of these, and we may not even get through all of them. So we'll see how we do. Let's start with what their plans are to handle immigration. Well, according to their platform, they're going to continue building Trump's wall. They want to reinstate the super unpopular and dangerous Remain in Mexico policy.
The Remain in Mexico policy, if you're not aware, and Mexico would have to agree to this.
Yep.
Was basically that immigrants from some countries, and I don't remember them all off the top of my head, from Central and South America, had to stay in Mexico while waiting for their immigration hearing.
Their asylum hearings.
Right, which could take years.
Yep. So they created huge tent cities.
They're never going to agree to that as like a permanent solution.
No, not at all.
And
who cares? Jason, we're going to invade them anyway. It doesn't really matter.
So, yeah, that to just say you're going to do it
is wild to me.
And also probably unconstitutional.
Well, and talking about unconstitutional, they also want to bring back Trump's Muslim ban.
Right, which was already shot down. They want to, as we said, deport every supposed illegal immigrant, undocumented worker, end chain migration, like Melania's family.
Bye, Melania.
To, quote, put American workers first. I don't know how that does that. They're all taking all our jobs, I guess.
But my favorite part is that it's the people who are born here who are supposedly taking the jobs.
My favorite quote from the immigration section is, Republicans will use existing federal law to keep foreign Christian-hating communists, Marxists, and socialists out of America. Those who join our country must love our country. We will use extreme vetting to ensure that jihadists and jihadist sympathizers are not admitted. Remember remember before when they talked about not persecuting people for their political beliefs?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, forget that, man.
And I mean,
that only counts if you're a former president.
Well, right. And again, it's not surprising in any way, but you'll see a theme throughout this where it's like they don't even care about other religions. It's specifically, oh, you better like Christianity. We only care about Christianity in this country. If you are any of the other religions, we don't even give a rip about you. So specifically,
well, in fact, we hate you.
In fact, we hate you. So, all right. So there's immigration. What about the economy? Well, they specifically say they want to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. Remember when that whole thing where they said we want to make sure we make it affordable for the middle class working people in their premises? Well, the Trump tax cuts, if you don't remember, were the ones that raised taxes on the middle class Americans to pay for the gigantic tax cuts for corporations and the super wealthy.
Largest corporate tax cut in American history.
Yes.
Which are still active. The very few tax cuts that went to, you could maybe say, middle upper,
sure,
are now expired.
Correct. They also put they just want to cut regulations, just that. Cool. Whatever.
You know, the government regulation on corporations, you know, that's the only reason they don't hire people, even though unemployment's at record lows.
Right.
It'll benefit you, just trust me. Just like Trump's tax cuts, which were supposed to increase wages, and instead all the corporations did was buy their stock back to give their shareholders
even more
payouts,
money.
And did not increase wages, and wages have been stagnant for the past 20 years.
Yep, so that's great.
But trust us, this time they'll do it.
These were a couple points I was not expecting in their platform. They want to end the Democrats' unlawful and un-American crypto crackdown and defend every American's right to mine Bitcoin.
Going for the Andrew Yang crowd. I think Elon Musk wrote this part.
Oh, well, let's keep going. They want to support AI. Quote, we will repeal Joe Biden's dangerous executive order that hinders AI innovation and imposes radical left-wing ideas on the development of this technology. In its place, Republicans support AI development rooted in free speech and human flourishing.
What? I'm no AI alarmist, but saying that we need to take government regulation off of AI
sounds crazy to me.
Yeah.
Especially when we know that government wouldn't actually do anything to stop AI progress anyway, because it can't even keep up with AI progress.
And I mean, we're not there yet. And it's not a danger eminently, as some people think. But yeah, let's not pull the very few limitations we have and regulations that we have, you know, just in case there's a couple breakthroughs. Let's not build Skynet.
Hey, apparently Sam Altman of OpenAI really wants to make AI like for the betterment of the world. Well, of course, this is the same guy that also made a nonprofit to a profit company to make millions of dollars. So
and then got fired by the actual nonprofit that was running the company.
Yeah. So, you know, we're in good hands. And also they want to expand freedom and prosperity and safety in space. Wasn't prepared for this one. Quote, under Republican leadership, the United States will create a robust manufacturing industry in near-Earth orbit, send American astronauts back to the moon and onward to Mars, and enhance partnerships with the rapidly expanding commerce space sector to revolutionize our ability to access, live in, and develop assets in space.
So the government's going to do this? Like, let's give Elon Musk $1 trillion.
I guess.
I thought we were going to cut government spending. I'm all for this.
Right.
If it's by NASA, not SpaceX. Yeah, so forget that.
All right, cool. Well, that's that. So that was the economy. So what about their ideas for, quote, bringing back the American dream? The GOP wants to make accessible higher education, even though they've been attacking it for decades now, and their only actual plan is to provide alternatives to four-year degrees for education, as opposed to making education more affordable.
AKA Trump University for-profit colleges. That turned out so well the first time around.
100%. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
They also want to make healthcare more affordable by reducing prescription drug costs. Now, who do you think already did that, or at least have been trying to do that,
and has been being stifled by the Republican Party and Joe Manchin's the entire way?
Donald Trump was the one who tried to do that, and these Democrats and Joe Manchin. No, Biden has been doing that his entire time in presidency. Ugh.
Who knows more about the elderly's problem with high prescription drug costs than Joe Biden? Come on. The guy's been elderly for 30 years. He knows all about it.
Well, and again, they have it in their platform, they want to protect Social Security and Medicare like they haven't been trying to defund those things for decades.
Right. And as with everything, their proposal for how they cut drug costs is to promote innovation by cutting government regulations. And that will spur innovations and give people a broader choice in their healthcare options.
Well, and
so a bunch of like crazy crank nonsense like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine that did nothing. You'll have more of that choice, everybody.
Yeah, and that's the standard
And
now.
the drug companies get to make more money.
Well, and listen to this, going back to the whole Medicare thing. They said, quote, Republicans will protect Medicare's finances from being financially crushed by the Democrat plan to add tens of millions of new illegal immigrants to the rolls for Medicare.
Right. The only problem with Medicare, and the reason why Republicans keep trying to cut funding for it constantly, including in our very own state of Wisconsin, in which the gerrymandered Republican majority in the legislature refuses to expand Medicare coverage. The only real problem, the reason why they don't want to do that, is because it's all the illegal immigrants that are using it.
Right. What about schools? Well, we already talked about restore parental rights, stop CRT, and gender indoctrination, blah, blah, blah. Of course, they want universal school choice. We talked about that during the Wisconsin election with Tony Evers and Tim Michaels.
We also did an entire episode on school choice, but
we did. They also want to completely defund all schools, like we talked about before, who engage in inappropriate political indoctrination.
Which the details of which will be provided later.
Correct. They also wanted to reinstate the 1776 Commission.
The laughably unprofessional and...
I mean, just outright...
pseudo-historical.
Right, just completely inaccurate.
1776 Commission.
They want to promote fair and patriotic civics education, which I...
Yeah, they were like...
don't know what that means.
Like, no federal civics regulation.
Well, they said they want to veto efforts to
What?
nationalize civics education.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right.
Is that basically saying like, all right, we're going to teach history how it is? No! We're going to let the South tell them that they won the Civil War.
And civics is just like how the government works.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do they think there's some like kind of woke civics curriculum?
I don't know. Is it just Schoolhouse Rock?
Nothing about separation of church and state. I don't know.
Yeah. And of course, they want to close the Department of Education. And it makes me nuts that the party who consistently attacks education over and over again complains about how our education is, like how our country's education standing is not as good as it should be compared to the rest of the world. You freaking idiots. It's your fault that we are currently in this situation right now. If you didn't constantly talk about how you shouldn't go to school because you're just going to get indoctrinated into whatever woke ideology you think exists, we may not be in this situation right now. If you actually supported teachers, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. But of course, no, none of that's actually in their platform. This was a weird one. So how will the GOP renew the pillars of American civilization?
Now, this sounds like it's straight out of the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
This is that white Christian nationalist, Western world, Judeo-Christian language.
And so the others we kind of paraphrase. I really want to just read the quotes here because you have to see it for yourselves.
Or hear it.
Hear it for yourselves. I'm sorry.
However.
Quote, Republicans will promote a culture that values the sanctity of marriage, the blessings of childhood, the foundational role of families, and supports working parents. We will end policies that punish families.
Yeah, because currently our policies punish families. Everyone knows that.
Well, first off, again, you gotta love the sanctity of marriage quip there. I think that's always an absolute fun thing to show.
It probably just means repeal gay marriage.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe get rid of interracial marriage. Who knows? We'll see.
And I thought they were against women working. So they want both parents working. I thought the whole point of a woman was to stay in the home and just have kids all day.
We're actually going to bring wages down. So
also, you
really
need both parents.
You're going to need both.
So it's no longer like barefoot and pregnant. It's like pregnant in the office now.
Pregnant in the factory.
Ugh.
We're bringing manufacturing jobs back.
Ugh. Another quote. Republicans will fire radical left accreditors, drive down tuition costs, restore due process protections, and pursue civil rights cases against schools that discriminate.
Why is due process in with the education stuff?
I don't know.
So yeah, radical left accreditors, meaning Trump University. You know, how Trump University was non-accredited.
But this was even worse than that because this was straight out of Project 2025. If you listen to it.
Well, I said this whole thing reads like Heritage.
Right, exactly. But this was one of the exact points that Project 2025 talked about where they want to completely dismantle and defund our college accreditation system to make sure that no college can get accredited so they can let any loony college in, but specifically religious colleges. colleges.
So no one can tell the difference between a college that actually teaches certified curriculum versus ones that teach you that the earth is 4,000 years old.
Yes. They also say they want to, quote, support the restoration of classical liberal arts education.
Yeah, I don't know. That's got to be like Western
like
civilization
we're going to
stuff.
bring white people back into the classroom thing. I don't know what else that
We're not
going to
teach you about anything other than Europe and America.
Perfect.
And only America like post 1600s.
And finally, they want to create a new federal task force.
Whoa, this is more government spending. This is expanding the role of government.
Yeah, but this is for a good cause. So shh. They want to create a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias that we know is a thing and has been a rampant epidemic.
Yeah, the one
since
problem,
the new atheist movement came out, and they wouldn't shut up about it online.
The one problem in this country is you really can't be openly Christian. You get discriminated for it so heavily in America.
You do. You can't get a job as a Christian, like president. You can never be president if you're a Christian in this country.
Yeah, we've never had a Christian president.
I mean, you've seen all of the bodies of Christians just littering the streets.
Anyone who has a Christmas tree or any Christmas decorations, dead. Just a government goon squad comes and kills you, smashes your tree, lights your stockings on fire. It's a massacre every December.
Poor person tries to read the Bible, shot, done.
So one big controversy about this platform is that they don't really talk about abortion.
No, not much.
For the first time in...
how many decades?
Yeah, it's probably...
since the 70s?
Yeah, at least, I think maybe 60s. There is no mention of pro-life. There's no mention of banning abortion in the Republican platform. All they talk about is opposing late-term abortion, and that's it. What that really means is they want to set up the federal, like, 12, 15-week...
the 15-week federal abortion
ban. But they can't say that because it's not popular. And again, Donald Trump and his advisors and the Heritage Foundation wrote this platform. It was not written by the RNC platform committee like it normally is. And I know that for a fact because WISN 12, the ABC affiliate here in Milwaukee, their political director, Matt Smith, tweeted out his interview with Gail Ruzicka, the RNC platform committee member from Utah, just as she was leaving, I think it was the Baird Center, that the platform that we're talking about, that we're reading right now, was adopted. And she was not happy about the process. So let's listen to that interview.
Take me inside. There were no phones. Was there any debate? How unusual was this year?
It's never happened before. Like I said, I've done this several times. There was no committees. We always had subcommittees where we can go in and work on a section of the platform. We can propose amendments, debate them, add them. Always happens. I've done it many times. And then it usually take today, and then tomorrow we would come back and meet as a complete platform, and sometimes there'd be more amendments. They didn't allow any amendments. They didn't allow any discussion. They rolled us. That's what they did. We only spent thousands of dollars to be here, and everything they told us they were going to do isn't what happened. None of it happened. I've never seen this happen before. I don't understand why they did it, and I'm extremely disappointed that we do not have any pro-life language. There are good things in this platform. There are a lot of things in there that I support and that I would want to, but I didn't vote for this because we've never had a platform. I've been coming to these conventions since 1992, and this is the first time we don't have a pro-life platform. The platform simply says that we oppose late-term abortion. Well, what about before that? There's nothing. It doesn't even want any place mention the unborn baby at all. Never happened before. And I've never been treated so badly to have them force this vote on us before we even had a chance to read the platform. We didn't even have they gave it to us, but then they had a meeting with people speaking. So we glanced through it, but we didn't have time to study it and read it. And then all of a sudden somebody made a motion to vote on the platform. And that was it. And then they sent us home, said, well, goodbye.
So I had two takeaways from that clip. I actually haven't heard that before, so I'm glad you found that. Number one, are you shocked, Gail?
And if you wanted, if you want a visual picture, I mean, just the fact that her name is Gail probably helps you out, but just picture, if you're old enough to even get this reference, Mrs. Howell from Gilligan's Island.
Oh.
that is who's speaking. And I like how she said, we are experts in these matters, and that's why we should be allowed to create and vote on the Republican Party platform. Now, she said, we paid thousands of dollars to be here.
Yeah.
And that's why she should be allowed to
vote on this.
Right. And she was not allowed to. No one was. They just said, this is the platform.
Here you go. So that was the first thing. I'm like, well, sucks to be you, Gail. Your party sucks. Number two is, again, this is what the Republicans are going to try to do. They are going to obfuscate and try to pretend that they have a middle-of-the-road policy. But you can already tell by how Gail reacted to it, their fight to ban all abortions will not stop until every single state will not be allowed to perform any abortions at all. So do not fall for the BS. Do not fall for the obfuscation. They want to take away women's rights all the way. And don't pretend it's anything that's not that. And finally, we'll just conclude with some election integrity that says, quote, we will implement measures to secure our elections, including voter ID, highly sophisticated paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and same-day voting. We will not allow the Democrats to give voting rights to illegal aliens.
Because currently, as everyone knows,
there are millions and millions of illegal immigrants voting at our booths at this very moment.
Well, and, it's not just the illegal immigrants. It's also all of the legal immigrants that aren't citizens. They can all vote right now. You can vote. Don't ask anybody or look into it or look at the laws. Do anything
about it, yeah.
But no, they totally can right now. So you should be scared and terrified that they're going to replace you. The brown people are coming for you. They're going to vote in all of the Democrats because the Democrats give them money. And they're going to take your jobs. They're going to eat your children. You're going to wake up one day. There's going to be an immigrant in your bed. You know what he's going to tell you? This is my house now.
Whoa. Oh, no.
And that is the plan of the Democrats and Joe Biden.
Actually, he's not going to say that. He's going to say, soy mi casa. No, wait, it's not soy mi casa. Oh, shit.
Yeah, sorry. No habla.
Estoy mi casa. No. I'm sorry for people who speak Spanish. I don't remember.
No, I got it. So he's going to turn to you and he's going to point to his eyes and point to you. He's going to say, look at me. I'm the captain
of America. So that's the platform. We'll include it in a link if you dare to read the 16 pages of death for yourselves. What are your thoughts?
So to me, the thing that stands out, it is completely contradictory.
No.
It states that the GOP is going to slash government spending, regulation, and taxes. But as we talked about, every proposal includes increasing government spending, things like border control, immigration enforcement, massive increases in military spending, a whole new federal agency to investigate anti-Christian bias.
Yeah.
And they only talk about removing government regulations on corporations, but they massively are increasing regulations on education and individual rights. But yet they're going to somehow also maintain Social Security and Medicare spending, even though Republicans have been saying for generations that those programs are insolvent and are going to go bankrupt if we don't completely overhaul them. So yes, that's a complete lie, and nothing, taken as a whole, this platform makes no sense. It is not coherent. It is not reasonable. It's not consistent if you put it all together and say, okay, let's pretend they get everything they want. How do we pay for it?
Yeah.
And just as an example, just taking their vow to deport every illegal immigrant from this country, not only would deporting every single unauthorized immigrant living in the United States create a catastrophic labor shortage in the hardest and lowest paying jobs in the country, or as you may know them if you're Donald Trump, black jobs. It would also cost an estimated $400 to $600 billion across 20 years, taking 20 years to actually accomplish it, according to research done by the right-wing American Action Forum that was done in 2015. They also estimate estimate this would shrink the workforce by over 6% and reduce the GDP by $1.6 trillion. So just one thing on the GOP platform agenda would cost us over $2 trillion. Just one thing. And you tell me how they can possibly make this work.
I think you're completely correct, but this goes back to how this is their ideology. Their ideology is not consistent. Their ideology stands for nothing other than make the rich richer and hate people that we're supposed to just not like.
Well, hate people that aren't.
Well, it's hate people who are not white
Republican
Christian
voter base.
Right. That's literally all it is. And I think it's very telling that while I don't expect a ton out of a platform, this language in here is extremely vague. Extremely vague. There are no actual specifics. There are no plans for any of this. And even for a platform, this is still extremely vague compared to even Republican platforms of the past. So I don't know what we're doing here. I completely agree with you. It's just an incoherent manifesto.
Yeah, and I actually put a couple examples because I saw you had it's extremely vague. So I put a couple examples in here just real quick. Under the Bring Back the American Dream section of the platform, they had, just want to give some examples. They had, to help new homebuyers, Republicans will reduce mortgage rates by slashing inflation. Doesn't say how.
Yeah, we're just gonna get rid of inflation.
Open limited portions of federal lands to allow for new home construction. That's the problem with our rising home costs right now. There's just not enough land.
You're right.
In the United States, we have to sell federal land or give federal land to housing developers and real estate developers, like Trump. Just give them federal land. And that's to help American families, because we'll just never mind the rest of it, but it'll help. So again, that's just a land grab by Trump specifically to help the business that he is in.
Yep, 100%.
Promote homeownership through tax incentives and support for first-time buyers. Holy cow, that's going to cost money. That's more government spending.
Yep.
And I'm all for it personally, but I don't think the Republicans are. And of course, cut unnecessary regulations that raise housing costs.
Just cut them.
Yeah.
Which ones?
I mean, you'll be able to afford to buy a house. I mean, you really won't, because it's not like housing prices will go down if they cut regulations. That's, as always, a Republican myth.
Jason...
But your house might collapse on you.
If we cut regulations, we're going to increase innovation, and that's going to increase competition in the housing market, and therefore...
Lower prices.
Lower prices on houses because of innovation on how to sell houses.
Right. And we're going to have really low-quality houses that these development companies are going to be able to sell for more profit than they already are.
We can buy houses with crypto now. I just figured it out.
And then when your basement caves in or your roof collapses or your house burns down,
that's the free market.
Innovation. What are you going to do?
It's the free market. Deal with it. We cut the regulations.
And the other example I had was Republicans will reduce the regulatory burden.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just the burden.
Lower energy costs.
Cool.
And promote economic policies that drive down the cost of living and prices for everyday goods and services.
Which ones?
It's very specific. They'll promote economic policies, Joe.
Cool. I love it.
That'll fix the problem we have.
And they're going to reduce the regulatory burden and lower energy costs.
Yeah. That'll bring down all of the food and good prices that are currently surging due to corporate greed. Because all of these things will affect how corporations want to make money, right? Because the real problem is regulatory burden. I mean, if you want to sell eggs, let's say, they have to be checked for E. coli because somebody might die.
Well, then
that costs money. That's a burden.
We can get the eggs out there faster.
And cheaper.
And
if a few grandparents and small children die,
that's the free market.
It's cost of doing business, baby. And, we'll lower energy costs. I don't know how. Apparently, again, it's going to be giving record profits to oil companies. That'll lower energy costs.
I got it. We're going to have a state state-by-state electric power grid, just like in Texas.
They're doing so well right now.
And they're going to all falter all the time, thus lowering our overall energy costs because we're going to
just won't have power.
Because we just won't have power.
Yeah.
See? Think about that.
Well, like in 2023, when oil companies had record profits, we all know that they lowered their prices because they were making so much money.
Oh, yeah.
And there weren't there signs on the pumps with Joe Biden being, I did that.
Like, did you know that there were lower gas prices when Trump was president, man? Have you seen the gas prices when Trump was president in 2020?
Well,
nothing else happened during this. Just
wait till you see the prices when FDR was president.
So there you go. You got the platform. We waited almost a decade for this thing.
One of our longest episodes ever.
Because we did it for you, Melanie. Cut that.
Oh, I'm leaving that in now for sure.
Next week.
Hi.
Next week, we cover the RNC.
If we survive.
If we survive. Wish us luck, everybody. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. We hope to see you in the next episode. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at ThinkProPod. You can email us at thinkpropod@gmail.com. And remember, when in doubt, think progressively. So I told you I was going to meet up with Rebecca's coworkers and whatnot, and they knew that we had to head out just a little bit early. And Rebecca told, oh yeah, I told them we had to head out at a certain time. No worries at all. I told them that, yeah, you have a podcast you have to go record. And I'm like, oh, I'm just like, it's really.
I mean, you are a white guy after all.
Really, it's like, it's not the thing I want to like really. I'm more embarrassed of this. Like, if you even say like, hey, he has like a Magic the Gathering tournament he has to go to, like, I'd be like less ashamed of that than like, we got to go do a podcast recording.
Promote homeownership through tax. Promote homeownership through tax.
Well, it should have been a better shot. Got him in the head.